After more than a year of investigation, interviews, and indictments, President Donald Trump has been implicated in a federal criminal case set in motion by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Yesterday, his former fixer and personal attorney Michael Cohen pled guilty to campaign finance violations, and he told a federal judge in Manhattan that it was then candidate Trump who directed him to make payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal in the run-up to the 2016 election to keep them quiet about affairs they say they had with Trump.
He not only implicated, he specifically under oath stated that Donald Trump directed him to commit a crime, making Donald Trump as much guilty of that felony as my client, Mr. Cohen. It was about telling the truth and about telling the truth about Donald Trump.
Cohen now faces up to 5 years in prison, but his attorney also says they have information that could be of interest in the Russia investigation, so it's possible the deal-making isn't done just yet. And as if that wasn't big enough, just minutes after Cohen's plea, Special Counsel Robert Mueller scored a major victory in his case against former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort. A jury found Manafort guilty of 8 counts of tax fraud, bank fraud, and hiding foreign bank accounts. But ahead of a rally last night in West Virginia, Trump was quick to distance himself from the whole thing.
Paul Manafort's a good man. I feel very sad about that. It doesn't involve me, but I still feel, it's a very sad thing that happened.
As for Cohen, Trump tweeted this morning, if anyone's looking for a good lawyer, I would strongly suggest that you don't retain the services of Michael Cohen. So what does all this really mean for the president and for the future of Mueller's investigation? Joining me are attorney Bruce Singal, who worked alongside Mueller in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston and was named 2017 Mass Lawyers Weekly's Lawyer of the Year, and former Assistant U.S. Attorney Dan Small, who has worked with both Robert Mueller and Rudy Giuliani in a past life. He's now a partner at Holland & Knight. Thank you both for being here. So legally, how bad have the last 24 plus hours been for the president? Let's start with you, Bruce.
Real bad. It's a 1-2 punch to the gut. He was clearly rooting hard for a Manafort acquittal to the extent of improperly sending signals to the jury while they were deliberating, hoping that his supporters would hear them and hold out for an acquittal.
Which, by the way, can you think of another time that a president has weighed in like that publicly about a case?
Never. I thought it was outrageous, and if any lawyer did it, you'd be sent for disciplinary action to the Board of Bar Association.
You agree, really bad, broadly speaking, for the president? Or might this be, I find myself wondering if people thinking that this is somehow the beginning of the end of the Trump presidency, as I think a Globe columnist wrote today, might be getting ahead of themselves?
Well, that's getting ahead of it, but no question it's a historic and tragic moment. Think about it. 2 of the people closest to the President of the United States both became felons within an hour of each other. And one of them directly implicated the President in criminal activity in open court under oath. So it's an extraordinary moment.
Is it fair to say, and I ask this in part because when you're a non-attorney trying to make sense of the law, it's like trying to speak another language. We don't always get it right in the media in particular. But the Cohen developments were worse for the president than the Manafort resolution, right?
No question about it. Well, Manafort is, Bob Mueller is a pro's pro. He's working through the way you do it. You follow the money. In any corruption or organized crime case, you follow the money and you put pressure on people to eventually come forward. So Manafort is still a work in progress. Cohen, that's the president's personal lawyer and fixer and now co-conspirator because he directly implicated the president in criminal activities in open court.
So given what Dan said, Bruce, if Bob Mueller is trying to put pressure on Manafort to cooperate if he remains a work in progress, as you said a minute ago. There's sort of jockeying going on with the president, on the other hand, saying, he's a good man. I feel very badly for him. I think the president tweeted something about how pressure was put on him, but he didn't break. Is there a public battle going on right now for Manafort's allegiance?
Yeah, it's like a ping pong game. I mean, you have a president who couldn't be signaling more clearly his almost affection for the man who was just convicted of federal felonies. And you have Mueller, who I'm sure would love to talk to him. Manafort's under great pressure. He's got another trial coming up next month. He's got the 10 counts that there was a mistrial on that the government can retry. And let's not forget he had a tampering with a witness problem that resulted in his bail being revoked, and that could also be charged.
I actually did totally forget about that.
Okay, well, I'm here to remind you.
Thank you very much. The conservative pushback in response to what happened yesterday, and we've seen this from the president himself, has been, all right, we haven't seen any criminal rulings or conclusions of cases that have to do with Russian collusion. And I think we have some video of the president making this exact point. Let's take a look.
Fake news and the Russian witch hunt. We got a whole big combination. Where is the collusion? You know, they're still looking for collusion. Where is the collusion? Find some collusion. We want to find the collusion.
Even if he's being maybe a little glib, given the context, is there the germ of a point there? Robert Mueller is supposed to be looking into alleged collusion with Russia, and these two cases, as embarrassing as they might be for the Trump administration, haven't dug that up yet. Fair point?
It's nonsense. I mean, there's no collusion. There's also no cotton candy. But that's not what these cases were about. These cases were, Mueller has a clear jurisdiction to prosecute what he finds in the course of his work, and that's what he's doing. And so for him to say there's no collusion, fine. There's no collusion in this case. There never was. There's also no cotton candy. But what there is a close associate being convicted. So now the talk about witch hunt is really nonsense, because a jury of the president's peers has convicted his campaign manager of 8 serious federal felonies.
And Michael Cohen is also indicating through his attorney, Lanny Davis, who used to be an attorney for Bill Clinton, that he might have valuable information to provide Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Let's take a look at some comments that Davis made recently about the juicy stuff he could offer Mueller.
Michael Cohen knows information that would be of interest to the special counsel, in my opinion, regarding both knowledge about a conspiracy to corrupt American democracy by the Russians and the failure to report that knowledge to the FBI.
Is it unusual to have an individual who's just been prosecuted offering to assist a special counsel via his attorney in high-profile national media? And Lanny Davis has made a few appearances.
Yeah, it's particularly unusual to have that in the day after a plea agreement, which is silent on any cooperation.
So what do you make of that?
Well, I think if you read the plea agreement carefully, you see some important clues. There are references on at least 2 occasions to a proffer agreement that Cohen's attorney or Cohen has with the government, which suggests that he has talked to the government, made a proffer or a presentation of what he would tell them. There are also references that allow the government to seek a different sentence than what has been agreed to, and for Cohen to seek a different sentence, a lower sentence than what's been agreed to, based on factors that are normally considered in sentencing, that I think would allow the government to say he has shown in his post-plea conduct that he is entitled to a lower sentence. So I think all those signs are there lurking in the plea agreement.
Interesting. All right. So Lanny Davis also said that Michael Cohen would under no circumstances accept a pardon from President Trump because he doesn't want to be, I think the term was dirtied by association with such an action. Can you do that? Can you, if you are pardoned by the president, can you reject it, or do you have to take it?
Well, I don't know legally whether you can reject a pardon, but certainly the president's not going to pardon someone who doesn't want it. I think really what happened there is that train already left the station. Once Cohen started cooperating and started saying bad things about the president can't now say he's such a wonderful guy that I'm going to pardon him. Because they're still going to call Cohen in. He's going to continue to say bad things.
And Lanny Davis can talk up Cohen's lack of interest in that as a badge of honor as opposed to something.
Well, Lanny Davis said that his client, the president's former personal attorney, believes that Trump is a danger to the country, quote unquote. That's not going to get you a pardon.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even I can wrap my brain around it.
And I don't think, by the way, that for better or worse, the Constitution does give the president the untrammeled right to pardon somebody. I don't think it does require any sort of acceptance. And in fact, if somebody is sitting in jail when they get pardoned, I don't think the jail could keep them there, even if, however ludicrous it sounds, they'd want to stay there because they're no longer convicted felon.
We've also heard today from the White House, from Sarah Sanders, who gave a press conference and repeated again and again and again and again that there are no charges against President Trump. As you guys know, there's a big chunk of the country which I think is hoping that there will be charges someday against President Trump. But right now, the DOJ policy dictates that no sitting president is going to be indicted, correct?
Correct.
Why is that? That's something that I've been struggling to wrap my brain. What's the rationale for that?
Well,
in 40 seconds or less.
The rationale is that, based on the Office of Legal Counsel opinion, that it would be too much of a burden on the president in his exercise of his constitutional responsibilities to be indicted. But that doesn't mean a sitting president could not be indicted after the fact if the statute of limitations hasn't run. And notable is the fact that you're talking about events in the summer and fall of 2016. Assigning a 5-year statute of limitations to that would mean that if Trump is a one-year president, he could still be indicted for those offenses.
And I've seen some people suggest that it could actually create an incentive for President Trump to leave office earlier than he'd intended to, so that he could receive a pardon from then President Mike Pence, right?
Well, that's the Nixon example, where Nixon left, received a pardon from Gerald Ford, and went on to do whatever he did after that. But that's one option for him, and I think that the White House is playing dodgem here. Yes, there have been no charges, but his personal lawyer stood up in court and said under oath that he had committed crimes. So it's a distinction without a difference right now.
All right, Dan Smalls, Bruce Singal, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.